You're listening to the Small Business Talk podcast with Cathy Smith. Episode 31.
Small Business Talk is a podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want a better way to run their businesses without spending years doing it the hard way. Small Business Talk is hosted by Cathy Smith, who has run the same marketing agency for more than 17 years and helped hundreds of business owners achieve their marketing goals.
Hey, I'm so glad you could join us. Welcome to Small Business Talk podcast. Today, my guest is Sue Daley from Mayolo Constructions. Now, mindset is really important in business. However, so is your physical space. So today's topic is tips on renovating your office space. Welcome, Sue.
Hello, Cathy. How are you?
Very well, thank you. As we've said, mindset's really important, but a lot of people forget about their physical space and they end up with junk everywhere or caught up on the dining room table or slammed in some corner. So let's start with thinking about home offices. Can you give some sort of tips about if we're looking at dedicating our home office, what we should be doing?
Okay, well, with the home office, you've got to realise that if you're renting, there's different requirements, I guess, when it comes to that compared to owning. So you're more restricted with the renting side of it, so always keep that in mind. With a home office, when we look at the renovations there, you look at, number one, what you're doing in your home office, what type of work you conduct, and where the background noise will be an impact. So, do you want to just have a little office set off into an alcove area? Or do you need a separate room, like a dedicated room with a door so you can actually shut the door and encase yourself in your office? So that would be the first thing you need to look at. So renting versus home ownership, and whether you need dedicated space or whether you can be out in the open with other people.
That's great. So when we're renting, what kind of things do we need to be considering? Obviously, we can't put extra hooks on the walls. So what else should we be looking at?
You can't actually do anything in regards to adding anything. So you can't add extra GPOs, PowerPoints or lighting without the written approval from the owner and the agent. You are restricted there. It's very rare for an owner to basically say no to someone adding a PowerPoint or a light because it enhances the home. But you do have to get that permission, and it does depend on the relationship you have with the agent and the owners. Let's just work in an actual room rather than a recess at this stage. So if you were in a room and you were having your desk in a certain position but the light's in the middle of the room but you're going to get a shadow over your desk or over your computer, you can either add a lamp, which is obviously the easiest way when you're renting, or you can actually ask to get some downlights in, because downlights obviously add to a room and they can definitely give a lot more light. And when we're talking about downlights, I only talk about LED downlights as well. We don't talk about anything else.
Excellent. We like that because we don't want heat issues in the ceiling from some of the older style downlights. So LED is definitely the way to go. And, of course, that's an energy saving as well.
Energy saving and no heat restrictions in regards to your insulation in the roof. Obviously, wherever you place your desk, you're going to be thinking about your power supply. You do not want cables running across a room. You don't want multitude of power boards. Often as we see it, it's not a safe thing to have done. Most homes, when they are built, you will find that there's one power point in each room. I recommend that you add a couple to most rooms as it is, whether it's a home office or not. I don't think we can ever have too many power points. You definitely need to have a power supply or a power point close to where your desk is.
So what do you think about the surge protector boards that you can get that have multiple power outlets on them? If you've only got one power point and you're renting, is it safe enough to put one of those multiple power outlet surge protector boards on? Or should we still be looking at getting extra power?
Yeah, look, I've got multiple power points all the way through our office and space, but I still use those ones. Specifically because with your computers and the actual devices coming off your computers, they're not a high load, so you can use one of those. But make sure it's a quality one. So you're talking a high quality one that's got a very good warranty on it. Please don't go cheap on those because that's where you will have problems and the burnout and the protection's not as good. So as an example, a Belkin one is a very good one. Your good quality, your HPMs and things like that, they've got that protection and that warranty. Yes, you can do that, but most of them are either 4, 6 or 8 outlets on a board. When it comes to in your office, you don't just go and get anyone, because those power boards, you need the one that actually has the space between the outlets, because most of your devices in your office will have the transformer plug, which are quite a big plug. So you've got to think about it when you're buying the power board about what plugs you're plugging in there. So I would definitely recommend not going more than the 8 power board. Just make sure you get one. So like the Belkin and the HPM one that I've mentioned, you can get them where they've got spaces at the end for the transformer plugs, and then they've got the smaller ones closer together. You can get caught out, and please don't use a double adapter on a power board. That's not a safe thing. That's straight away you're negating the whole point of that power surge board.
And how often do we see that? Power boards with multiple double adapters on top of multiple double adapters. I love your tip there about spacing, because, we don't always think. And now with our phones and some of those plugs, they only go one way. If you've got the spacing correctly, or you've got it spaced, yours is the left and the space is the right, you'll end up in trouble. So possibly we should be thinking about taking some of those plugs with us when we're looking at buying those power boards.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, and especially, I guess, if we are renting and putting a lamp, then that's another electrical device that we need to. Now, I understand that rentals have to have RCDs. Is that going to be a problem if we have a surge protector board like that, or is that just an added safety?
That's an added bonus. If you start renting a property as of now, there should always be 2 RCDs in the home, so one for light and one for power. There's normally on an average home 2 lighting circuits, which will be covered by 1 RCD, and approximately 3 power circuits, which are protected by an RCD. If there's more than that, or people add more than that, that's when the RCDs increase. There is also the electricians, because we work closely with them. There are new circuits now which are basically an RCD and circuit combined. They're definitely how you can improve on your circuit board to protect your home as a whole, not just your office. But the more protection you have, the surge protection boards, the RCDs in your meter box, obviously the better protection for your appliances and your computers, because they cost money. You want to make sure you're looking after them.
Excellent. So that's a good segue into moving into, if we're a homeowner and we've got our dedicated office room, what things should we be looking at there, and what other things could we do now that we actually have our own permission to modify our room?
Well, I definitely recommend, if it's your own home office, putting some LED downlights in, because they give better coverage of light and an even light without creating shadows, rather than that central light and rather than lamps. So having a good quality LED downlight, even if you space it out. The other thing, and this is going into a little bit of a feng shui side, so a little bit of a layout design. We always recommend in feng shui principles to not have your back to the door. So when you're actually laying your office out, always lay it so they call it the power position. So you are facing the door. So when you're sitting down, you're facing the door, or you're at least got your side to the door. So you never want to actually have your back to the door, especially if it's your home office, because it's all about money and energy as well. That's one I learned long ago when I was first doing fit outs.
And that's great advice, because having that wall behind you is, your power position and your protection as well.
Correct.
So,
exactly right. Myself personally, we've got a home office set up, but we're actually taking over the whole living room. So our kitchen is our office kitchen, our dining room is our meeting room, and then the rest of the living space is just full of office desks. We have our backs to the walls and our sides to the doors, because it's the only way we could set it up. And then we've made sure we've got additional power points in place by courtesy of the owner. We actually asked the question. We're currently renting, and we asked the question and put some quality LED downlights in for him and some extra power points, which they never say no to, because it's improving their home. So,
excellent. Okay, so we've covered lighting. What else should we be looking at? Obviously, the position of our desk.
Position of your desk, your storage, and your internet connection. When you're in a dedicated room, they're the 3 things that you will find you require the most out of a home office. The appropriate storage, whether it's open bookshelves that you have along the wall so you can have all your filing in it, just make sure that they are level and they are secure and they don't fall forward. If it's your own home, you can actually fix them to the wall so that they don't fall forward with weight. There has been accidents with bookcases falling forward, so it's a very big thing. if you're going to have a tall, high bookcase or anything storage that's quite high, secure it to the wall so it doesn't fall forward, especially if you've got young kids in the house.
Or likely to have clients with young kids if you...
Oh, if you've got clients coming in, yes. The reason I mentioned the internet connection is depending on where the modem is in the house, depends on how good your internet connection is inside your office. So you may need to speak to a qualified person that can actually give you advice on maybe putting a booster in place, because the last thing you need is a slow internet connection when you're trying to get a job done quickly. So that was the other thing in regards to those. One little tip I have found, and whether you're renting or whether you own your home, I actually found a product about a year ago. I think I've shown you, Cathy, and it's literally a portable whiteboard. They're whiteboard sheets. So you lift from static and you can stack them on your wall wherever you go and write on them just like you would any whiteboard. You can actually do your brainstorming without having to have a big whiteboard in the room. There's something I found very handy, and I've had lots of clients actually nick that idea off me and go and grab them themselves.
Yes, I have seen those, and they're perfect, especially if you are renting and you can't put a big whiteboard in your office, then those static portable sheets. The other thing, of course, is that you can always then take them with you if you're going to a meeting.
Yeah, after a while you can't write them off, but it's good to, if you're brainstorming, they're really good to have up on the wall so you can actually see what your idea is. Even if you have one for each day of the week, you can even have your schedule up on the walls, and you're not impacting on the paint, you're not impacting it by putting holes in the wall. So even if it's your own home and you don't want to add too many hooks, this is just a simple way to actually have your work on display or your ideas up or your to-do lists up, anything that you can put up there. They're very handy.
Excellent, and that would be great for planning as well. Okay, so have we covered most of the things that we would need to have in a home office?
Definitely.
Okay, so now if we're moving into a more dedicated office, what would people would think of a more traditional commercial office? What sort of things should we be looking at there?
The first thing you need to look at in any commercial office, again, it's what kind of work you do. But if we talk about someone that is literally sitting in an office taking phone calls, the first thing I would look at is your acoustics in the actual office. Most offices, they are a stud frame wall. So they're a gyprock wall and they have insulation between them, but not necessarily an insulation that protects from a lot of noise. So if you find that when you're standing in there looking at it, you can hear the other office next door, then you might want to look at getting some acoustic panels, specifically in rooms where you need to actually keep things private or communications private, or you don't need to hear the neighbour talking to their client. Following on from acoustics is then going to be in your design and setup. So if you've got this nice big open commercial office and you get to lease this office and you can set it out however you want. I know the current module is open plan and it's nice to have all this open space. But if you have a lot of people on phones all the time, it doesn't quite work, because what you'll find is you'll have one person's voice that is different to someone else or higher, and it ends up becoming just a big noisy area. You can do open plan, but if you've got desks that have got partitions in them, so at least it protects the people from having to hear someone else that little bit, it helps cut that off. So the design is the biggest thing. So you've just got to, again, work out what it is that you are using your office space for. If an open plan is what you're after, is there a way that you can set up the desk, use partitions to help each office worker from not being impacted by too much noise from fellow worker? And again, the lighting and supply, making sure that each desk or each workstation or each module of workstations all have the appropriate lighting and power. Moving on from there, so if we say workstations, so say you've got a group of 2, 3 or 4 workstations, rather than putting the PowerPoints on the walls, you can actually come from an umbilical cord from the ceiling down a pole to the centre of the desks, and then you can actually distribute power to each desk so they can literally plug in directly under their desk. So it's actually a mobile workstation. And then if you leave that premise for a bigger, better one because your business has grown, you just take all of that out and put the ceiling tile back in. It's actually quite simple.
Perfect. And we've all had those nasty experiences where we've been on a call centre type phone line and you can hear everybody in the background. So we certainly don't want to be portraying that for our businesses. So
no, it's not, and it's not really appropriate, because no one should be listening to someone else's phone calls. The semi-partitions, they don't have to be full height partitions, just the ones where people can see over if they want to lean up and over and talk to someone. Those ones are fine. They still help, because when people talk, they tend to talk downwards anyway while they're looking at their computer or while they're writing or something along those lines. So it's very rare someone will sit back in their chair and yell out to the rest of the world. If that's all you can do, then that at least is better than nothing.
And I guess in that sort of situation, it'd be more likely to be the managers or the CEO that would be sitting back in his chair. So he could have or she could have a more enclosed style office on the edge of the open plan section.
So when you do a design up, managers in all honesty, should have their own office with the door closed, because they're going to have meetings where they need that privacy. You don't have to have a full solid wall. You can actually do glass partitions, and they can be full height or half height. So you can have half solid wall and half glass above. And that way you still have that privacy, that communication privacy as well, that noise protection, but at least you can still see what's going on in the actual general office. It's a personal preference whether it's a solid wall or not. If you've got a couple of offices side by side, you can have a solid wall in between them, and then they can have glass to the front looking out at all the rest of the staff. And that way it's a nice open feeling without feeling like the managers are cut off from you.
Great, that's excellent. What about flooring? We didn't talk about flooring in either of the home office or dedicated office. Does that come in with your acoustics as well?
It definitely does. In most commercial offices, carpet tiles are what's used. Another choice, and a very common one now and a very good quality one now, is vinyl tiling. So they're called luxury vinyl tiles. Though between carpet tiles and your luxury vinyl tiles, they're the two options that I would recommend. Anything that's hard, like your ceramic tiles, porcelain tiles, your hardwood floors, even your engineered wood floors, people walking and the echo from people walking, the echo from people talking, because you've got a hard ceiling, hard walls and hard floors, it will just all bounce around. In your home office, it does depend whether you have a lot of background noise. I'm currently sitting on tiled floors, but there's only us in the office. It's a home office, so we don't have a lot of noise except for maybe my dog going off at someone that's walked past. And I've always got a water feature actually playing in the background as well, just to help with the ambience, should we say. If you're using the home office as a bedroom, then predominantly they tend to be carpet in there as well. That will become well worn in a home office, like carpet does on a general walkway, and you'll find your home office will become a general walkway. So I do find that carpet's probably in a home office not the ideal solution. So again, I would always revert back to the vinyl tiles in a home space, and then in the commercial space, either carpet tiles or your vinyl planking, just because they are the best acoustic properties.
Okay, so if you're having an alcove and it is your home office situation and you are on tiles and you're renting, so we can't actually do anything about that. So would we bring in some rugs, or would we put some of those carpet tiles over the top? What would you suggest there?
If it's in an alcove, it probably would make no difference, because it's an open area. You're not really going to be able to help anything, because with acoustics, the way it works is it's bounding off surfaces. So if you're in an alcove area and you've got a big open space behind you, then the acoustics are going to play off the furthest walls. It's probably not going to make a lot of difference for you. You can definitely put a rug under it to see if that helps with an open area, because you've got to remember the sound bounces from ceiling to wall to floor back up again, and it literally just goes around. I don't think there's anything that will truly help there, because it's an open space. In your home office in a dedicated room, you can definitely use your rugs, even if you have your desks on the tiles and put a rug in the middle of the floor, so that where you're sitting with your chairs, you're not damaging a rug, but where the centre of the room where people sit or visitors sit, or you're just walking through, at least, rug will actually help soften those. Curtains are another thing, rather than blinds, that do help with acoustics. In a commercial space, if we jump to that, they're not appropriate. That's where your blinds tend to be the most common. In your home office, if you can have curtains, that definitely would be the better option, because that does help with your acoustics as well.
Okay, great. Okay, any other tips that we should be thinking about when renovating? If we're looking at renovating our office space, should we be looking at the whole house as a whole, or is it just fine to look at renovating our office space if that's what our budget can afford?
You can definitely do one room at a time in any home. Whenever we meet with a client, we always ask them what their plans are for their house, because if there's something that they have that they want to do eventually that can be done during a renovation, so As an example, say someone wants their home office done and the bathroom is where, where they're going to use, where their clients are going to go. That's on their list to get done eventually. Get the quote on both. Get the two separate quotes. So get a quote to get the bathroom done and get a quote to get the office done. Because if you're going to have clients coming in, you want to present the best space. So that bathroom, if that's where they're going to be going, that's also part of your presentation to your client. So if there's a way to get both of them done at the same time, then that would be my better solution for you, my better suggestion for you. Definitely you've got to work within your budget, but if there is a way around that to always spruce up wherever a client's going, so consider that wherever the client is walking, say you've got a front office and there's the office got an ensuite office, consider all of it, not just the space you're sitting in.
Great, and I guess that really is for people definitely in the health industry, if you're having people coming to your place, if you're a nail tech or a hairdresser or doing massage, all of that kind of health-related things, then, you really do need to be very mindful of what your bathroom facilities are like.
And in that space, those health facilities, the acoustics in a room is also very crucial. So in all of those cases, making sure there's a door on the room. In those situations, carpet on the floor or vinyl planking is definite, just to stop the acoustics. Curtains on the windows and quality curtains that will help block out as well, so that you can regulate your temperature. The one thing we didn't talk about in either home office is your air conditioning. So having a home office and regulating the temperature, the last thing if you're at home and it's your own home and you can afford a small split system, it's definitely recommended, because with your computers, they will heat up a room quite quick. Having something that regulates that temperature, and especially if clients are coming in, you want to make sure they're comfortable as well.
Most definitely, and especially in those health-related areas. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've covered lighting, we've covered power, we've covered flooring, and now we've covered our temperature. Is there anything that you think we've missed there?
No, the only other thing you're talking about is paint, and paint will always transform a room. You can do nothing else but paint and you will transform a room. In your home, actually in most commercial places, keeping a neutral colour on the walls is your best option. You don't want it too stark bright, but at the same time a neutral off-white or soft colour with a little bit of warmth in it will also help. Then you add your colour, or you add your logo colours, I guess you could say, your business colours to the room with prints or with furnishings. If you have got a home office and you can fit a couch in there or a small couch, then add your furnishings to that to bring your colour in. Try not to do too much heavy colour if you find it's a temporary office in your home, because if you use a very dark colour on your walls and then you want to bring it back to a neutral colour to, say, sell the property, it will take a minimum of 2 base coats to cover that dark colour to bring it back to a light colour. Before throwing a really nice dark colour on there, and there's some wonderful colours out there, don't get me wrong, they're fantastic, but have a think long term whether you want to start repainting, because you can add prints, you can add the curtains, you can add the carpet. That can bring all the colour in that you need.
Excellent. And, of course, your furnishings too. I have a client whose logo is a lime green, and she does it beautifully by adding lime green cushions and vases, and that brings
and even your pens can have the lime green. I've got lime green all through my stuff as well. My pens, anything you can think of, but not the walls, because you want to make an impact, but you don't want to make that kind of an impact by having a lime green wall, as an example.
Yes, because some people like it and some people don't. So it might be an instant turn off when they walk in.
Exactly. Right. And in a commercial space, the same thing there. You'll find that there's restrictions on what colours you can do, because it is a commercial space. The actual commercial complex and the strata managers, there will be criteria that you have to work to there as well. So you need to make sure with a commercial office space that you get to know the strata manager or the building manager well, and make sure you know what their criteria are. You will find most office spaces do have a neutral off-white type of colour throughout, and if they do paint a wall, it's predominantly one feature wall that they can utilise.
Which can be a perfect accent, so that's great, and it will pick up your brandings.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, terrific. Okay, I think that's covered most of the areas that people would need to know about. So that brings us down to our final 5. And everybody gets scared about now, so I'm not quite sure why, but are you game?
I'm game. Thanks for the warning that I didn't get.
I did tell you to listen to a previous one and you would have picked it up. Okay, number one, what is the best advice given to you by a mentor?
Just do it.
That's been a constant the last probably 4 or 5 guests. Everybody's saying the same, and I think it's so relevant. We plan and we procrastinate and we do everything possible apart from the actual thing we need to do. So perfect.
Yep.
Number two, what is the biggest help you have received since starting your business?
The biggest help has been with fellow business owners and just networking with them, communicating with them, talking to them about the trials that they've been through, and being able to talk to them about the trials that we're going through, and realising that we're not alone and that everyone goes through the same stuff, and that it's all a journey for ourselves, but it's not something unusual, that we can get through it, and we just have people there to talk to that will listen to us and also give advice when needed.
I think that's very pertinent, because people think that small business is easy, that once you get started and you get on with it, you'll be fine. But as we know, for those of us who have been in for quite some time, it's ups and downs and roundabouts, and sometimes you have to do a bit of a cha-cha, 1 or 2 steps forward, a couple of sideways, and then a few backwards.
Exactly, and just like property market, business goes the same thing. We've just gone through a really hard construction era, and at the moment it's still very low compared to what it was. There's lots of ups and downs, and then you have it not just with the business side, but in your personal life there's always those challenges as well, and you've still got to run a business.
For sure, you do. Okay, number 3 is, what is the one thing that you have to do every day, your non-negotiable?
Wake up and show up.
So along the same lines of just do it. Excellent.
Yeah, you've just got to wake up, get out of bed and go do it. But every day, I literally have to be here. I have to be here for the clients.
Absolutely. Okay, what is your favourite business book and why?
Again, the same theme. Richard Branson's Screw It, Let's Do It.
I think there's a bit of a theme running through here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It definitely is, because it's just a case of, setbacks, but you've just got to keep going no matter what.
You do. And I guess that brings us back to where we started originally, was the mindset. Is, yes, it's a setback, but is it actually going to kill you? Probably not. Might make life hard for a little while. We do need to keep moving forward.
There is one other book that I always do fall back on every so often when I need to remember that, and that's The Alchemist.
Perfect. Okay, number 5. What do you wish you had known when you started out in business?
I think the common answer there would, don't do it, but that's not what I want to say, because I wouldn't change it for the world. But at the same time, it is hard work. Make sure you have that network in place when you are building your business. Have a network, a team of people there to work with, because from the beginning I didn't have a full network, and we've got to that point now where we do. So have the people in place and find those people, i.e. accountant, lawyer, social media lady, anyone that can help you run that business so that you can focus on what you do best and have others there to help you run the business as such without taking time away from what you do best.
I think that's really pertinent, because people think that they should be doing everything. But obviously the aim is to get big enough where you can outsource the things that you may not be good at or don't want to do, or are not your zone of genius, because we can all do bookkeeping, but is it worth spending 8 hours when we can pay someone to do it in an hour or 2, because that's their zone of genius, not yours?
Yeah, and just remember the value of your time, because whatever you charge your client for your hourly rate, that is the cost you should put on your time for doing anything that you basically shouldn't be doing. So if you can outsource it for less than it costs you to do that job, then you should be outsourcing it. You can be doing something that better builds your business and brings more work in.
Yes, I was on a webinar recently, and obviously being a web designer, it was on web designing, and they were saying, would you pay $150 for a very bad web designer that took 8 hours to learn what you needed to do? Well, if your personal time is worth $150, then why are you doing the web designing if that's not your zone of genius? So I think we really do stick in our zone of geniuses and, add value to our clients, not just dabble in absolutely everything because we can, and then end up with a business that's only just so-so when it could be really brilliant.
And I know it's hard when we're first starting out, but you could probably find that you grow quicker by actually, having those there to help you rather than worried about the actual money. If you can make it work, then you will grow quicker to allow for that cost to be included.
Excellent. Okay, Sue, I think we've got a lot of valuable tips there, so thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And where can people find Mayolo Constructions if they'd like to know more about you and Joe and the business?
Okay, well, you can find us on Facebook page, Mayolo Construct. Website is in the making. We have got that outsourced and we are working on that one, so that is coming soon. For any electrical tips, you've also got HP Electrical WA, which can also help you with anything to do with your lighting and power supply as well. So you've got the two options there.
Excellent, and we'll add those to the show notes. So thank you very much, Sue.
You're welcome. Thanks, Cathy.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to Small Business Talk podcast and head on over to smallbusinestalk.com.au/downloads for all the show notes and links to this episode. Remember, to be great, you must start. Pick one tip from today's episode, take action and implement it. Let's meet again next week at the same time and place. Until then, take action. And SBT community, enjoy your journey.